Well, we're officially in the month of June, where we expect to hear a ruling from the Supreme Court over the Mississippi Dobbs versus Jackson case that could overturn Roe versus Wade in one of the most highly anticipated cases the High Court has overseen in decades. And as the hunt to identify who leaked the draft decision ramps up, the court is faced with a logjam. Bloomberg reports the justices have a backlog of 33 cases before the term ends. That equates to 53% of the total argued cases for the term. Well, joining me now with analysis is former law clerk for Justice Neil Gorsuch and former chief counsel for nominations for the Senate Judiciary Committee, Mike Davis, and he's also the founder of the Article 3 Project. Mike, welcome back to the show. It's good to have you. All right, so we have this backlog here, the largest that we've seen since 1950. I mean, what does this mean? Are they going to be able to get all these cases out in time by the end of this month, traditionally?
They will definitely get all these cases out. They'll get them done. I think what you're seeing is you have the first, President Trump transformed the Supreme Court. You have the first constitutionalist majority on the Supreme Court in almost 80 years. And these are very hotly contested cases, and there are probably a lot of draft majority, concurring and dissenting opinions going back and forth, but they will get these done by the end of June, beginning of July.
Okay, because they have so many backlogged, do you think that we'll hear the Roe case, this Mississippi case, sooner or later? Will they wait to hold that to the end? We won't likely hear maybe potentially till July.
I imagine that the Dobbs case will come out either June 20th, but more likely June 27th, because there's an internal deadline when draft opinions have to be circulated, and the most hotly contested cases wait till the end of the term.
Okay, so speaking of that case, the Washington Post in an op-ed says it's premature to assume that Roe versus Wade is dead and the Supreme Court justices have changed their mind at the last minute before, so saying that they could change their mind. How likely do you think it is that they may have changed their decision since February?
It is very unlikely. This is a 67-page draft opinion by Justice Alito. It is bulletproof. He no doubt would have made sure that his maybe five justices who joined his opinion are on board with this. And if the justices abandon this opinion now in the face of these threats against justices in their homes that have forced justices and their families to leave their homes, that would be totally irresponsible for a justice to do that.
So where are we in this leak? Obviously there's an internal review going on trying to find it. Sources are telling CNN that the Supreme Court law clerks are being asked to turn over their personal cell phone records and sign affidavits. Are you getting any tips about what's happening and how soon we might be able to find out who this leaker is?
I have intentionally had zero discussions with anyone inside the court about any of this, but I'll tell you that the Marshal of the Supreme Court manages a nearly 200-person Supreme Court police force. They have the resources they need to get to the bottom of this. One of these law clerks is going to crack.
Interesting. Well, I know everyone's anticipating who it could be. Republicans have introduced a bill called the Leaker Accountability Act to make it a crime to release SCOTUS documents that aren't public, and the crime would carry a penalty of up to 5 years in prison. Do you agree with this legislation? Is this the right move?
You know, I'm all for that concept. I will say that there are federal statutes on the books right now that, for example, obstruction of justice. If you leak a court draft opinion for the purposes of trying to intimidate a justice into changing that justice's opinion, that justice's vote, that would be obstruction of justice. There are statutes dealing with government property about this property didn't belong to that law clerk, it belonged to the court. So there are other ways you can go after this, but sure, if they want to pass a law to make it a crime to leak confidential Supreme Court material or any judicial material, I'm all for it.
Okay, so I do want to turn now to the other big news tonight. Former Trump aide Peter Navarro, he was charged with contempt for defying the January 6th committee's subpoena. Here's his reaction outside of the courthouse today. Watch this.
This was a preemptive strike by the Department of Justice to prevent my civil suit from going forward, and shame on them. They just put the hammer down. I'm up against partisans who want to weaponize Congress and abuse the tools of the federal government.
All right, so this is the second former Trump aide to face criminal charges. What are your thoughts on this?
I think the Attorney General Merrick Garland is a disgrace. He has turned the Department of Justice into a Democrat machine. This is unprecedented what they're doing. Peter Navarro was a senior White House aide to President Trump. He was asserting executive privilege. We've had executive privilege going back to George Washington. He was trying to get this litigated in the courts, and he's exactly right. They tried to do this preemptive strike against him. This is clearly the Biden Justice Department is clearly trying to take out Trump as a potential rival in 2024.
So if you're Peter Navarro tonight, I mean, what are your options at this point?
You plead not guilty and you fight this thing. I mean, you have to fight this thing. We have two systems of justice in America, one for the left and one for the rest of us. And this is a total abuse of the judicial process for the Attorney General to greenlight this prosecution of Peter Navarro.
Interesting. Well, obviously, we will continue to follow this. We know the January 6th committee hearings are going to be coming out next week in prime time. So this conversation will be continuing. And we're going to have you back because I want to talk to you about all these 33 cases that are coming out of the Supreme Court and get your take on them. There's a lot of big ones. Also, stuff on the Second Amendment as well. Mike Davis, always love having you here. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.